Hello, it's been a while since my last video. It's been a while since my last Zwift ride. Unfortunately, I've not been very well, and I thought I'd do a very quick video just to catch you up with where I am, where I've been, and hopefully how close I am to getting back on the bike. If you're a little bit squeamish, I'm not going to show any pictures or anything, but I'm going to explain what I've been through. So if you don't like listening to sort of medical stuff, maybe this isn't for you. But I thought, yeah, just explain what's happened over the last 6 weeks or so. It all started end of November with a bit of a cough and a cold. It didn't keep me off the bike, but I was struggling to get air into my lungs when I did ride. So I didn't ride that often. Did a couple of the Saturday banded rides and just carried on from there. One thing I would say, actually, while I'm recording this, apologies. I still haven't got full projection back in my voice. And my mouth goes really dry and I'm coughing as well. So if there's lots of jump cuts in this video, I'm really sorry. It's because I'm having a drink. I'll do my best to just not need to do that. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Anyway, so I had the cough cold before in November. Came to the start of December a couple of weeks later. I always leave it a couple of weeks. I thought I better go to the doctor in case this has turned into a chest infection. I couldn't see the doctor, but I could see the one of the people that they have there that can still prescribe things. So she did a check over. She said, I've got a bit of an infection that she wanted to treat. Also, my blood pressure was slightly high and she felt there might be signs of asthma as well. So she gave me tablets to take, antibiotics to take for the infection and a prescription for an inhaler for as and when I'd need it. I then went out for the evening, picked up the prescription on my way home. Luckily, our chemist is open slightly later. Essentially took a tablet before bed and went to sleep. I didn't check what the tablet was. And this will forever haunt me for not checking. I'm allergic to penicillin and they'd prescribe me amoxicillin, which is part of the same family. I woke up at about 6:30 the next morning and I knew I'd made a mistake. I don't know if anybody else has had allergic reactions. I could feel like sharp pains just in my near my underarms and in other parts of the body as well. And I thought, okay, I've made a mistake here. I've had this before. I was in my early 20s when it happened. And I knew that was it. I was about to come out in a full body rash, but I thought, well, I've only taken one tablet, so I might be okay. Started taking sort of over the counter antihistamines, and over the next couple of days, it sort of progressed to swelling in different areas and the rash as well that I get with it. Just when first sort of started on my hands, and then sort of progressed throughout the rest of the body, and then those parts started to peel as well as expected. It's just horrible, peely, scaly stuff. Towards, I guess, maybe a week later, my face swelled up, and I thought, okay, I better just phone the doctor, make sure I'm doing the right thing. It was an evening, so I had to phone 111. They sent me to a late night pharmacy. I went there and the not the doctor, but the sort of the lead pharmacist, I guess, had a look, was a little bit helpful, prescribed me with some stronger antihistamines, which I started to take. She advised that I go back to the doctor if I could the next day just to check things over. So that's what I did. I managed to get an appointment, again, not with a GP, but with the pharmacist person that can prescribe there. And he upped my antihistamine. He said, take double the dose, one in the morning and one in the evening. Let's try and get this down. By that point, I struggled to walk because the rash had come out on the bottom of my feet. So I was literally, I got an old tatty pair of fake Crocs that I had to wear, nice and soft. And my feet had swollen up as well. The bottom of my legs had swollen up. So it was just trying to I was wearing a pair of slippers that I'd slid inside because I couldn't put socks on. I'd slid inside these Crocs and I was just hobbling along. He prescribed a little bit extra, double the amount of antihistamines, and hopefully that will bring it down. What might sound really strange through this is I had been wearing a pair of jogging trousers for a couple of days, and I'd been sleeping in them as well, so I hadn't looked at my legs. I knew my feet were swollen, but I hadn't looked at my legs. I decided on the Saturday the 16th, I better just take a look and make sure everything was all right. And I took my trousers off, and there was quite a large blister, I don't know, maybe about this big, full, and I could see that it had started higher up my leg and it just gradually moved down, and it was about midway down my lower leg, and I didn't have a clue how long that had been there for. I feel stupid for not looking earlier, but that prompted another telephone call to 111, because I thought, does this need to be dressed? What is it? I phoned 111. Eventually the doctor called me back and said, you need to get that dressed as quickly as possible, get a dressing on it, make sure it's okay. So we're very lucky, very close to where I live. We have a 24-hour emergency sort of GP centre that they sent me to, gave me an appointment and sent me to. It was about 11 o'clock at night by this point. Went down there, sat in the chair with the doctor on call, who took one look at me and said, you've got to go to A&E, you are not well. And I'll be honest, I didn't really feel unwell. Just felt the discomfort of the rash and the itching and the skin sort of rubbing off and stuff. But I didn't necessarily feel unwell. But I came home, had a chat with my wife, and we were like, well, do I go now when there's less doctors on? Will it be longer? Should I go in the morning? I thought, no, okay, I'm just going to go now. Go now, get it looked at, and not worry about what might happen in the morning. My mum, who was amazing, came and sat with me in A&E. When we got there about midnight, there was I think it said about 3-hour wait. We were watching the clock as we were there. It was going up to 4 hours, 4.5 hours. And when you go into A&E, you get your first initial check over, where they check your blood pressure. By this point, my blood pressure had returned to normal. So what the doctor had seen previously when I went to see her, through this whole process, my blood pressure had returned to be fine. They checked the blood pressure, temperature, and everything. And I think that's the point that they may have put a cannula in my arm. I can't remember if they did there or later. And I said to her, would you mind just putting a dressing onto my leg? Because if I catch that on something or with my other foot, that's going to go all down my leg and all over the floor. So she put a dressing on, and we sat in the waiting room for about 2.5 hours, moving around a bit, just sitting in different places, trying to pass the time. I looked down and noticed that the blister had moved down my leg even further and was now out of the bottom of the dressing that she'd put on. So I thought, okay, I'll go and find a nurse and just see if they could redress it for the same reasons as before. Found a nurse. She said, just sit in that room and I'll come in and do it. Went and sat in that room, and throughout when we were sat in A&E, people were coming around taking blood pressure and stuff of people who had been in there for a while. So as a matter of course, she took my blood pressure again, which was fine, my temperature, and some other things. But as I was sat there, I started to feel a little bit unwell, a bit nauseous, and a little bit spaced out. At this point, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm thinking I'm just tired. She brought in an ECG machine. She shaved part of my chest, started sticking these things to me. I wasn't really with it enough to think about what was happening. And then I heard her shout out the room. I heard the word fever. And I said to her, I haven't got a temperature. I haven't had a temperature in any of this. And she said, you have now. And that's when things sort of changed quite quickly. They moved me to a room next door with a bed, sort of a temporary room. And she said, you're now number 1 on the list. The doctor will be coming to see you next. I was like, okay, this has changed rather quickly. I'm still feeling a little bit off. I just went and sat in that room with my mum for a bit. The doctor came round. I explained the whole process to her. She was brilliant. And before I knew it, I was being hooked up to IV antibiotics. I think I'd had some bloods taken when I first went into doctors. I can't remember. I've had so many blood tests throughout this, I can't really remember. Anyway, she said, yeah, okay. She went through everything. And then at different points, people came in to do different things, to to redress my legs, to do lots of other things and do different tests and whatnot. Then another ECG test at that point too. Then I kind of realised that they mentioned that I was going to be admitted, and I was moved a couple of times actually to a sort of a ward that was within A&E, whilst they waited for a bed somewhere on one of the wards in the hospital. Eventually, I think I was moved at about 4:30 Saturday evening onto a ward, which was an experience. I've never been on a hospital ward myself before without having someone else there with, or visiting somebody else. And throughout the next few days, I had lots of blood tests. The doctor came to see me the next day and she explained, okay, you've got cellulitis. I didn't really know what that was. I do now. In fact, I've Googled it and still can't find a picture really that looks anything like how bad my legs were. But over the next couple of days, morning and evenings, I was having IV antibiotics and just staying in the hospital. They'd taken my blood. She explained to me that certain markers were really high and they needed to see them come down to a certain point before they'd let me go home. So I sat in hospital for a few days. During my time in hospital, I had an X-ray on my chest, which thankfully came back clear. I had a scan on my liver, which came back showing signs of slight fatty liver. I have known that before. I've had a test before. So I kind of knew, just other tests for other things as I was there. None of them really came back with any issue. My blood pressure never caused any issues again. So I'm assuming that whatever was seen by the very first person was okay. And gradually the levels that they were looking for to come down were coming down. On the Wednesday before Christmas, what's that, 20th? About 6:30 in the evening, they let me go home, thankfully. I'd had a couple of visits from my family during the time I was in hospital, but I just really wanted to go home, sleep in my own bed, be able to see my kids when I wanted to. And part of that was I had to still go back into hospital to have blood tests a couple of times, sort of before. I think I did one before Christmas, one between Christmas and New Year, and then one after Christmas, just to make sure everything was still coming down. So I came home and came home with a set of antibiotics for 10 days. These were tablet antibiotics. I had to take 3 tablets every 6 hours. So I was having to wake myself up in the night to take the tablets. It didn't seem to matter because I couldn't sleep for more than 90 minutes max at a time anyway. From when this cough started all the way back at the beginning, I could not get any decent sleep. So by this point, it had been, a month since I've had any decent sleep for longer than a few hours. My cough came back a little bit as well. That had gone away and come back. And I also then had an appointment booked by the hospital to go and see my GP, who then extended my antibiotics by another 5 days as well, because my legs hadn't quite cleared up. So what happened with the blisters is that it just left. Then I got it on my right leg as well. So both of my legs, how do I say this nicely, basically scabbed up with I'd say it was bigger than my hand, the area that both of the legs had scabbed over. They were looking for the infection to dry up and scab over before that they were happy that I could come off the antibiotics. I finally stopped taking the antibiotics, and then my stomach started causing me issues. And any long-time viewers of the channel from back when I sort of started will know the struggles that I'd had with my stomach back then, with just feeling sick quite a lot, uncomfortable, being sick. I was sick a couple of times, just feeling pretty rubbish. I couldn't really go out. I had no energy anyway. So I'd spent, by this point, I think from going into hospital to being at home for a couple of weeks on the antibiotics, I'd seen the outside of the house probably 5 times just to go for blood tests and stuff. I'd moved from the sofa to my bed, back to the sofa, back to my bed. I wasn't in a good place mentally, being honest. Christmas, it was great to not be in the hospital for Christmas, but I just didn't feel energetic enough. I didn't have enough energy. to enjoy the full occasion of it. And I was really gutted because it's my newborn's first Christmas, and I didn't get the chance to do those things. I always take the week before Christmas off to go out and just soak up Christmas, go and do the last bit of the shopping with my kids, or it used to be just my daughter, but I was looking forward to taking them both out, going to see the Christmas lights, you know, all the stuff that you do before Christmas, watching Christmas films and things. And none of that happened because I wasn't well enough to do it. So yeah, it's been a bit of a rubbish period. My legs, where am I now? My legs have scabbed pretty much. They've all scabbed over. Most of it's come off. Got a little bit left to go. About a week ago, this is horrible, but every part of my body has shed skin. Whether that's a little bit or I've had to peel some of it off. My feet were the last things to go. When it happened to my hands, I had a problem. In fact, I went up to my in-laws for Christmas Day dinner. I literally walked in, had the dinner, and then said to my wife, "Can you take me home, please? I need to just be at home." But I remember them plastering the hot plates around, and I said, I can't, because everything's peeled off my hands, I can't tell. They're so sensitive, I can't tell heat or not. I hit hot or cold, so I couldn't touch anything. I'm having the same issue with my feet now, in that just walking around is making them really quite sensitive, which is fun. It's kind of keeping me off the bike. I think I could deal with the scabbing on my legs if my feet weren't hurting enough, I could probably keep my feet going. But I think I just need that to ease up a little bit more before I jump back on the bike. The other thing I've been dealing with is tiredness. And I mentioned in the start of the video that I'm struggling. I haven't got the power back in my voice yet. And I've still got a bit of a cough, which I'm assuming isn't an infection because I've been on so many antibiotics. It's not funny. So I'm just still recovering. I'm a million times better than what I was this time last week. On my daughter's birthday, which was last weekend, I felt so sick in the morning that I couldn't watch her open her presents. I had to go and lie in bed. She was amazing. She only opened one present. She wanted me to see her open a present. So she didn't open her birthday presents until the beginning of the afternoon, which I know for a kid is really hard because I know how much you wanted to get into them and see them. And even then I couldn't be joyous about it. So from last weekend to this weekend, I am a million times better. And I'm just hoping that continues. And my first few rides back on the bike are going to be pretty tame, I think. But I want to get back on because my wife bought me these for Christmas. The Zwift Play buttons. They're on my bike. I put them on my bike over Christmas, but obviously I haven't had the chance to use those yet. Maybe this coming week, it might be only 15 minutes. I've obviously been back at work. I've been getting to 6 o'clock and I'm shattered. So, but that's just going to improve over time. I cannot believe how much taking one tablet has just completely knocked me out for 6 weeks. And I'm still not back to feeling 100%. It's absolutely crazy. I don't think that caused the cellulitis. They were swollen. I must have bashed my legs on something or they've got infected somehow. But yeah, that's been my last, 6 weeks. Sorry I've not been around. And hopefully I'll get back to some sort of semi-regularity over the coming weeks. And I can finally start 2024. I've done none of that looking back on 2023. I've done none of the planning of thinking about what I want in 2024 because all I want to do is get back to feeling 100% again. So, yeah, sorry for all my waffling and fingers crossed, start to feel better soon and I'm back on the bike. But yeah, that is the end of this video. If you have enjoyed it, do hit like and subscribe and I'll see you on the next one.